Hello everyone and welcome to another video where we will observe how most interesting positions can arise out of the Berlin defense regardless of how many times it's being played. It is Viswanathan Anand versus Jan-Krzysztof Duda, and I seem to have I've forgotten to update Duda's rating because it is a bit higher. Let me just fix this. There we go. We have a former world champion, former world classical champion, and former world two times rapid champion Viswanathan Anand taking on Jan-Krzysztof Duda. It's quite a brutal game. You guys will enjoy it. Let's check it out. A lot of you have requested it. It's from yesterday's round one. We've seen round two where Vishy played against Magnus. So here, pawn to e4 by Vishy. Pawn to e5, like we've said, the Berlin defense will be on the board. Bishop to b5, the Ruy Lopez, and knight to f6, the Berlin defense. d3, we have bishop to c5, and now bishop captures on c6. We have d captures on c6, and now knight b to d2. For those of you who are perhaps just joining us in the chess world, you might be wondering why not grab the free pawn. Well, of course, queen d4, and white resigns, as white will either lose a rook, knight, or get checkmated on f2. So here, knight b to d2, now this is prevented, and knight to d7. Now you have to defend the e5 pawn, and this is done in this line of the Berlin defense by either playing bishop d6 or queen to e7, or you pin the knight with bishop to g4, or you play knight to d7, which will allow black to at some point push f6, and black always plays f6 in the Berlin defense. I've yet to see a game where black doesn't. Maybe if black blunders the game before, it's time to play f6, but they always play it. So knight to c4 puts more pressure on e5, and now just castles. And here, it actually is possible to capture the pawn, but it's not a great move. For example, if knight captures on e5, knight captures, now queen goes here, attacks the knight and goes after the f2 pawn. You can play knight to g4. It is possible. Yes, you defend the pawn, and now after bishop captures, queen captures, you even allow queen captures on f2. You go king to d1. And you're not down material or anything. You will even play queen to f3 if black allows it, and it's not the end of the world. But for example, if f5, which is the only move that gives black the advantage, then you will run into some trouble. For example, captures, and the black is just up too much inactivity. Black is just too active. Rook is coming to f2. The other rook, you can easily go to e8, to f8. The bishop is already developed, and you don't have all that many great squares to develop this bishop. You have to play like bishop d2 to c3, and so on. So it's not going to be easy to get out of this, in case you were wondering. So here we have castles, and now rook to e8. We have king to h1, and of course pawn to f6. Knight to h4 now, preparing to come to f5, and now knight to f8. Now the bishop nicely covers the f5 square, and usually everyone played bishop to e3 here in this position, but Anand played knight to e3, and it is now, as of move 11, that we have a completely new game. Now Anand is ready to claim that f5 square for himself. And there doesn't seem to be anything you can do about it. Of course, you can play g6, but that's a further weakening of the position. You want to think twice before doing this. It is, in fact, the best move by the engine, but of course, Duda does not know that. So knight to g6, and now knight h to f5. Now you claim the f5 square, and queen to g4 is coming next, then h4, h5, and you will probably checkmate the black king if black allows all of this. So you should probably avoid trading your bishops for knights. A bishop captures on e3, or even bishop captures on f5. Should be considered at least ill-advised. You should continue with something like a5, and then after, let's say, queen g4, king to h8, and after h5, h4, rook to g8. So the g7 pawn is nicely defended, and it's not a problem. The knight can come to e7, you can trade off the knights, and so on. So the knight from f5 cannot really move. It's a fine position. But, of course, you do not know this, and it's a rapid game. Bishop captures on e3 was played, knight captures on e3, and now bishop to e6. So Duda nicely develops. b3 now, and queen to d4, putting pressure on the rook here. So rook b1, preparing bishop to b2 to kick away the queen. Rook 8 to d8, and now bishop to b2. We have queen back to d6, and now pawn to f3, just solidifying here in the center. We have pawn to c5. Now the d4 square is definitely taken by black. And of course, the knight from g6 as g3 will probably be played, will come to e7, then to c6, then to d4. And you will either leave it here or take it, or maybe play c3 in the future, but then your bishop becomes useless. So It's not a bad position for black by any means. Sorry, knight captures, bishop captures on e5. It did not happen. I accidentally played that. So g3, taking away these squares from the black knight, and of course now b5. We have queen to e2, stopping c4, and now rook to d7. We have rook to f2, and now queen to c6, preparing c4, and also nicely aligning the queen with the white king on this diagonal. When you do that, more often than not, good things will happen. So here, pawn to h4, preparing pawn to h5, and now pawn to c4. Duda counterattacks on the queen side. We have d captures, b captures, and b captures on c4. Now, Anand is up a pawn, as the pawn is nicely defended, but how are you going to keep that pawn? I mean, it's a double C pawn. If anything, they are both weaknesses. So here we have queen to c5. Now, should the knight and queen move, even the rook will be suspiciously placed here on f2. So you should play something like bishop c3 to b4 to grab even more space on the queen side. Anand first moves the rook back. It is rapid. You are down on time. You don't want to overpress your luck. Rook e to d8, nicely doubling up on the d file. Now preparing rook to d2, and of course Anand stops at bishop to c3, defending and attacking. Well, potentially attacking. So queen to a3, but now just rook to b3, showing that the pawn cannot be captured. If you capture it, rook to a1, traps Duda's queen. So after rook to b3, we have queen to a6, again putting pressure on that c4 pawn. And of course you cannot advance it, as the queen would hang on e2. Pawn to h5. You solved all of your problems on the queen side, and you once again have the privilege of attacking the king side. h5, we have knight to e7, and now pawn to h6. And now you do want to play g6, but you also know that that's not great. If g6, then f4 will come, then this diagonal becomes open, then this bishop becomes a monster, and you have a whole other set of problems. So it's basically what kind of problems do you want in life? So knight to c6, Duda continues with his plan of putting the knight to d4. You really want to kill that bishop on c3. And now rook to e1. Rook to b1, also a nice move. Anand goes for rook to e1. Knight to d4. Now you have to trade, as your queen and rook are under attack, and bishop to d4 capturing. We have rook captures on d4. You could also play e captures on d4, but then knight to d5 and f4 will be, well, at least a nuisance for black. So rook captures on d4, and now h captures on g7. So for the moment, of course, you will ignore this. You got rid of the dark square bishop, so it's time to claim that not just the d file, but also the second rank. Queen to f1, and now king captures on g7. Anand plays pawn to g4, so now you know that at some point knight to f5 is probably coming. If you capture, then the g file opens up, rook comes to g1. Could be very nice for him. And now queen to a5. Queen to a5 is a super tricky move for Duda, but only if Anand messes it up. The point is that if you play something like queen to h3, okay, it's a very nice move. You want to start attacking, rook h2 check, and then the rook hangs on e1, and you have at least a draw, or basically you have nothing to worry about with black here. White lost the attack. Okay, knight to f5 is no longer does anything. I mean, it's nice, but doesn't do anything. Rook to b7 is easily defended, so no worries there. However, Anand plays queen to g1, and now the idea is, of course, the queen lift is coming, but it's coming via the g3 square. Then you will be able to enter, push g5 and so on, but also the rook on e1 will be defended. So here h6 should be played, as that g5 push really needs to be stopped. Duda played king to g6. This is how he stops it. Queen to g3. Now, of course, g5 will be putting pressure on e5 as well, and queen captures on a2. Again, h6 was the only way to go, but now pawn to g5, and there's no good way to handle this. To give you an example, if you play rook captures on c2, let's say you want to trade rooks, knight captures, queen captures, white just plays captures on f6, opens up a discovery from the queen. After the king captures, queen h4 check, connects with the rook, connects with the h7 pawn. After king f7, you can even play rook to b7. I mean, now this is a threat, this is a threat, this is a threat. There's no move here that black can make to survive this. So instead, f captures on g5 was played, but now queen captures on e5, And it seems like Duda is getting completely wrecked, but he finds a move that keeps him in the game. Queen to a6, just defends the bishop, and everything is perfectly fine. Next move, h6 is coming, and he solidifies. But there is one move that wins the game for Anand, so feel free to pause this video and try to find the only idea that wins while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on always finding that one true path towards the opponent's king. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is pawn to f4. This is the only move that wins. For those of you who found the rook to b5 or rook to g1, which is very nice, they are both easily parried by pawn to h6. So the g5 pawn becomes defended, and that's pretty much it. You will still have a nice position, but it's not crushing. After pawn to f4, it's just crushing. Now f5 is a threat, queen captures, and g5 is a threat. There are no moves here. You have to capture the pawn. So g captures on f4, and now knight to d5 by Anand. It's a rapid game, so of course you will sometimes play a suboptimal move, but knight to d5 is still winning for white. Knight to f5, I will, however, just show it. It's an instant checkmate. You cannot avoid this. Queen can come to g7 with check, then queen comes to h6, rook to g1. Depends on what black plays, but it's just crushing. And of course, if you capture the knight, then still rook to g1 with check, and you have no moves. King f7 will be met with rook to g7 check, king to f8, and now queen to e7 will be checkmate. And if you don't, if you after knight to f5 you play something like this, you defend the g7 square, still rook to g1 check, king f7, queen to g7 with check, king to e8, and now rook to b8 with check even, and that's it. Rook to d8, you free up the e7 square for the white queen, is checkmate. So just showing it for fun, but Anand's move is also more than sufficient. The knight is coming, capturing on f4, rook to g1 check, knight e7. All of these are just possibilities. Queen is now also covering the f6 square. You cannot defend this. So bishop captures on d5 was played, but now rook to g1 check, and it was in this position on move 40 that Jan-Krzysztof Duda resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Point is that after king to h6, of course, rook to h3 is just checkmate, and if you go up the board, it's the exact same one that we've already shown. Rook to g7 check, king to f8, and queen to e7 will be checkmate. So beautiful attacking game by Viswanathan Anand. Like I said, another game where we show just how full of possibilities the Berlin defense is, and no matter how many times we see it, there's always a way to not have a boring game, to have a brutal attacking game. And this is one such example. Of course, it helps that it's not classical, it helps that it's rapid, but definitely I have enjoyed it. Hope you guys have as well. And it just shows that it doesn't matter how strong Duda is and how how far up in the world he is. Anand is just a former world rapid champion. Doesn't matter how old he gets, doesn't matter what happens, he will always be able to beat anyone anywhere, in any position, in any opening. So yeah, there you have it. Hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank ABCs of Chess Openings for Kids, BulletChessThriller.com, Samuel Kane, Dan McCormick, and James Eugene Cashman for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon. Continuing the coverage of this wonderful tournament, checking up on your wonderful suggestions, and of course whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. And sorry about my voice being a bit sore. I'm a little bit under the weather. Hope it will pass soon. See you soon. Enjoy your day.